When I was a kid in elementary school, I had one best friend. We'll call him Jim. We were pretty much inseparable and spent a ton of time at each other's houses. I loved when he came to my house. We'd play in my giant sandbox, or with my train set downstairs, or build snow forts in the winter. It was a blast. I wasn't as thrilled to go to his house, however. His mom was an absolute angel, soft-spoken, incredibly kind. And she often took us fun places, water parks, toy store, museums, etc. They even had a pool. What made me apprehensive was his dad. He was a complete 180 from Jin's mom, really tall, well over 6, perpetually grumpy, and had a booming bass voice that you could feel in the air when he spoke. He intimidated the living shit out of all the neighborhood kids that came over to Jin's house, including me. A good example of his ability to instill maximum fear simply by existing. I'd be over at Jin's house, walking down the hall to use their bathroom, and his dad would appear, coming from the opposite direction. He loomed over me like a giant, so I usually did my best to cower and try to be invisible as he went by. On more than one occasion, just as I was about to pass him, he spun on me and got right in my face, yelling, "What are you doing?" I'd stammer out that I had intended to use the bathroom, but no longer needed to since I'd pissed my pants. He'd straighten back up and continue walking, laughing to himself as he went. In hindsight, I think he knew he scared the hell out of us and enjoyed it. That being the case, I quickly learned to recognize the sound of his truck when he came home. I'd run to Jim's room and wouldn't come out until it was time to go home. The other thing that was scary as hell, Jim's dad and mom got into loud arguments all the time. I have to give her credit. Jim's mom would get right back in his face and not back down an inch. Still, anytime we'd hear them shouting from the other room, we both worried that we'd get it from Jin's dad for some unknown reason. To the best of my knowledge, nothing ever became physical. But oh man, the racket they made when they'd go at each other. Once, during the summer when we were all playing around the pool, he approached me from behind, lifted me up, and tossed me into the deep end of the pool. I couldn't swim. I thrashed around wildly and was about to drown when Jin's mom dove in and pulled me out, giving her husband a nasty look. He just laughed to himself and wandered off. One winter day, Jim and I and his sister were out sledding in the backyard, and the zipper of my snow suit came off the track. I went inside and told Jin's mom, who told me his dad would fix it. I tried to say no, it's okay, but she was already calling down the stairs to him. The booming response from the basement sent him down. I went down those stairs as if I was living my final moments, all shaky and scared. There were almost no lights in the basement, just a single bulb hanging from a string in the workroom where he was located. "Come here," he boomed. I nervously stepped over, and he bent down on one knee to take a look at the zipper. Even then, he was still 3 feet taller than I was. He stood and walked over to his bench, returning with a pair of needle nose pliers. He put the wayward zipper back on its track, then bent so he was almost nose to nose with me. I was petrified. He took the pair of pliers, opened them up, and placed them on my nose, then gave them a little bit of pressure, just enough to where it almost hurt, but not quite. Then he removed them, stood, and chuckled like he always did. I must have done 140 miles per hour running up the stairs and back outside. As a little kid, I'd never been more terrified. Fast forward to age 15 to 16. My folks and I had long since moved out of the area, and Jin, I hadn't spoken since about the 4th grade. My parents informed me that Jin's dad had been put on the predator list for having underage child content on his home computer. They asked me if anything funny had ever happened during my time at Jin's house as a kid. I immediately recalled the nose pliers situation, and a chill went up my spine like you wouldn't believe. Thankfully, I wasn't a victim, but my blood ran cold when they told me that. My mom tells this story much better than I do because she lived it. When I was 3 years old, we lived in Texas in an apartment complex. My mom said that she would find me out of my crib, sitting in a laundry basket almost every night. She said that I was playing and laughing and having a good time. She asked me who I was talking to, and I told her that it was Mary. She asked me about Mary, and I told her that she was an old lady and that she was my friend. Mary would come with us everywhere. She would sit at the dinner table with us, and my mom would open the door for Mary when we went to the store, or opened the door for her to get into the car. This went on for quite some time, and one day, my mom asked me if Mary was coming with us to the store, and I said, "No, Mom, Mary died." My mom did some research about the apartment and found out that there was an older lady who lived there, who died in the closet of my bedroom. My mom said that she always thought it was odd that the hangers in the closet would move, and she thought it was me touching the clothes. But I wasn't anywhere near the closet. It's kind of spooky. I do not remember this, but it is a story that we ask to hear about around the bonfire. I've been experiencing sleep paralysis quite often. As terrifying as these episodes are, I can't help but to be fascinated by them. So, I thought I'd share one of my experiences. I'm not sure if I'd call this my scariest, but it definitely gave me the creeps. For context, I own a pair of slippers that are slightly too big for my feet. Because of that, they make a very distinctive sound when I walk across the wooden floors in my apartment, a sort of dragging noise, mixed with the smacking sound flip-flops would make. I wear them often, and I remember clearly that on the night in question, I had kicked them off and left them somewhere across the room before going to bed. Now, most people experience sleep paralysis in the morning, right as they're waking up. For me, it always happens at night, just as I'm falling asleep, which somehow makes it even scarier. That night, as I was drifting off, I started to hear something. I realized I couldn't move, the all too familiar sign that I was entering another episode of sleep paralysis. The sound was distant at first, too faint to make out clearly, but slowly, I began to recognize it. It was the dragging sound of my slippers, coming from the hallway. The footsteps were slow, heavy. I didn't want to see what was about to walk into my room, so I closed my eyes. The sound got louder, closer, until it reached the doorway. I even heard the wooden floor creak as something stepped over the threshold into my room. Then, it came closer, step by step, until I could feel a presence right next to my head, and then silence. That's when I snapped out of it. The paralysis ended, and I could move again. It took me a moment to work up the courage to open my eyes. When I finally did, I peeked over the edge of my bed and saw my slippers, perfectly aligned next to my bed, facing me to this day. I'm not sure if I left them there myself and just misremembered, or if they actually moved. Either way, it was one of the most confusing and unsettling experiences I've had. Feel free to share your own stories. I'd love to hear more about these creepy phenomena and understand them better. Like, share, and subscribe for more true horror episodes.